All right, men, welcome to today's episode of Strong Men, Strong Marriages, how to get attention, appreciation, affection, and sex from your wife. So, these four things we've talked about a lot on this podcast for a long time, and how, we need to not really need those things, but we all want them, right? I mean, this is what we want from our wives. And so, had a really cool moment of revelation from God about this and wanted to share it because there is a way to get it. It's just not quite what you might think it is. So, we're going to talk about it today. My name is Mike Fraser, MD. I'm a psychiatrist and marriage coach. I help high achieving Christian men have more intimate marriages. So, some wins from guys in my program, the Strong Men, Strong Marriages program. Guys are having fun family memories together, which is super cool. Going on trips, enjoying time together. Wife and kids, super fun. Guys are having deep, meaningful conversations with their wives, connecting at deeper levels. Guys are having increased physical intimacy with their wives. Super important, super fun. Guys are feeling more grounded in God and in themselves, which is huge. And then for me, yeah, this inspiration about caring for my wife. How is it that, we get what we want as men from our wives: attention, appreciation, affection, sex, connection, right? All of that, intimacy. So my wife and I, we had a couples therapy session this week, and actually things have been going pretty good between the two of us. But I came in kind of upset, wanting more, feeling like it was going too slow, that kind of thing, and that kind of derailed us. And I just came out thinking, man, this is so unfair. I can never say anything that I want. I just have to wait and wait. That's the only time she's happy is if I'm not asking for anything. That was the story I was telling myself. So I went out, I was running, I was yelling at God, just telling him how unfair I thought everything was. Um, yeah, kind of what I discovered was my framework for how a marriage should look, right? Or what was fair, how it should work, is if I provide financially for my family, right? For my wife, that should be enough to get attention, appreciation, affection, and sex from my wife, right? That's my job, provide financially. If I'm doing that, your job is to be grateful that I'm providing for you financially and you don't have to do it, okay? Or at the very least, right, you know, she should appreciate that I'm doing that and take care of the whole house stuff because that seems fair, right? So this is a kind of 1950s style approach. And look, the truth is it kind of feels fair in a way because it's like, look, you don't have to work at all, so you should be grateful that I am working and, you know, show that gratitude by giving me affection and sex and telling me how grateful you are that you don't have to worry about that, right? This is also like the mail order bride approach. So, you bring someone in from a different country where this is a huge step up for them. Maybe they will just kind of understand, okay, yeah, like I don't have to live in that country anymore where I might get murdered any day and I'm going to get diseases every day. I'd rather be in the United States. And yeah, I'll stay with this guy and be grateful and have sex with him and all that because, yeah, that's better, right, than where it was. And again, like in some ways, it feels fair. It feels like, okay, yeah, I'm doing all that for you. You don't have to worry about finances. I'm buying all this stuff for you. You should be grateful for that and show it to me in the ways that I want you to show it to me. Okay? So again, it feels fair. And so when you're doing your side of it, especially if you're a high achieving guy and you're making a lot of money, relatively, it can feel really unfair if you're doing that and your wife's buying clothes for herself and going out to eat, but she's not giving you attention, appreciation, affection, sex. And look, like for some women, it might actually work, or at least for a little while, right? But usually it's just out of fear of losing that financial support. So that's like the mail order bride kind of situation, right? And again, guys, like I was mad, and because it didn't seem fair, right? I was providing financially, I was providing at a high level financially, but she was not doing her part according to this framework, right? Like she was not giving attention, appreciation, affection, sex. She didn't seem to be doing any of that stuff, right? And so I was just so mad, so mad. Why should I keep doing this? I'm going to remove all the financial support and then see how they like it, right? That's where I go to with this. But again, it's based on this mindset that This is how it's supposed to work, and this is what's fair. If I provide financially, she should give attention, appreciation, affection, and sex. It seems fair, okay? But what God helped me see as I was out running and just yelling at God and being mad about all this is the actual natural system of how to take care of a wife, okay? So what God helped me see is that she's actually, it's not like this at all. It's not like her emotional growth and her being able to give freely attention, appreciation, affection, sex. It's more like she's a flower. Okay, that's the image God helped me see. Okay, and what God helped me see too is like, as I was providing, okay, the way to help a wife bloom, right, and grow is to, and when she blooms, that is when she gives attention, appreciation, affection, sex. It actually has very little to do with financial support. Now, if, for example, you were to quit your job and not provide anything financially, yeah, that would be kind of a problem because she would not feel very safe and she'd probably have to go back to work and, she'd be stressed out with that and all of that. But like the emotional side of it, her being able to give freely attention, appreciation, affection, sex, if you're providing at a decent level, you know, that's kind of the baseline for this. But then to actually help her bloom, it's very different. Like it's emotional. It's not financial, it's emotional. She needs to feel safe, she needs to feel secure, she needs to feel encouraged, she needs to feel tended, she needs to feel honored, right? So you need to go in with that kind of mindset of her growing like a flower, right? And look, here's a good example. Like if you take $100 bill and throw it at a flower, like the flower doesn't grow, okay? Like it needs to be tended, talked to. Like farmers, and there's been research on this, like when you talk to a plant in a kind way, it actually grows better and stronger. So your wife is like that. And what God helped me see is like, hey, look, man, your wife was actually opening a little bit. And you came in and kind of screamed at her, basically. I didn't scream at her, but I was not very nice to her. And it was like, yeah, you never listen. And, I can never say what I want. And so the natural response, this is what God helped me see. The natural response was for her to, instead of continuing to open and bloom, was to close up. And God just helped me see, man, hey, man, you've been doing that a lot over the years. She opens a little and then you get mad. And so it's natural for her to close up. That's the natural response. Okay. That's what's actually happening. That's how she works. She operates like a flower. And so I was like, well, shouldn't she be able to just like take some hits now and then and like let me get mad at her? And what God said to me that was so funny is like, well, do you want your wife to be more like a man? I was like, no, I don't. I want her to be more feminine. And God helped me see she's a very feminine person, very much like this flower, right? That needs to be tended with care and love and gentleness. That's when she's going to feel open and be able to bloom, not by coming at her and getting mad and like taking some punches. Because really, a lot of times I had treated her like a punching bag. I get mad at her, and she'd kind of take it and then kind of like do whatever I asked her to do for a little bit, and then she kind of not do it again. And I was like, yeah, this isn't fair. Look, I'm doing my part, which again, in my mind was providing financially. And she's not doing her part, which is giving me attention, appreciation, affection, sex. But God help me see, look, man, that's not it. Like you're not operating in the natural system. The natural system for her to open up is to treat her like this flower that needs to be treated with love and care and tenderness, right? That's when she's going to open up. Not when you throw money at her, okay? And especially not if you come and get mad at her. That's the natural response, is for her to actually close down, and instead of blooming and opening, to shut down. And so I was like, oh man, thank you, God. Now I get it. Okay. And this is what I'm sharing with you guys today. Your wife is probably the same way, probably has little to do with how much financially you bring in. And of course, like you want to provide well for your family, but let's say it takes in your neighborhood, just throwing out a number, $100,000 a year to like provide a good living for your family. Okay. If you make your focus, well, if I'm making 200, then she should be really excited, or 3 or 4 or 5 or a million, right? Then she should be really excited and give me even more. But you're missing it, right? That's not how it goes. That's not the natural system. You need to get in there actually and provide more of this emotional support and love and care and tenderness and gentleness, right? That's what helps her open up. That's how she opens up and gives attention, appreciation, affection, and sex. Little to do with how much money you make, right? So again, like my pattern has been, tend for a while, right? Be kind of patient. She starts to open up a little bit. And then I get mad that she's not opening up fast enough, or I bring out all my resentment that, man, like, look, I've been doing this all this time. Which again, this being mainly providing financially and probably like doing stuff around the house, maybe trying to do stuff in her love language too. But the heart of it was not quite right. It wasn't, how do I help this person bloom? How do I help this flower bloom? It wasn't really that. It was more, how do I get what I want out? And if it's not going fast enough, I'm going to be upset, right? And so that framework, and also again, really, I think my underlying framework still was, if I provide financially, she should be opening up. That was kind of the baseline. Anything else I do beyond that should be extra bonus. Like, she should definitely be opening up. But God help me see, that's not it, man. Like, she's a flower. She's to be treated like a flower. Okay. And all these times you've gotten mad, it's natural for her to close down. Okay. That's natural. It's not her being ungrateful. That's natural. That's what is supposed to be happening, is when you get upset with her, she's going to close down. Okay. So again, like, it's like yelling at a flower as it starts to bloom. It's going to close down. Yeah, I get a release of emotion or whatever, and it seems fair because I finally get to release all the frustration I have. But again, like, that's against that natural system of helping her bloom and grow. So again, this is such a good breakthrough for me, because now it doesn't seem unfair. It just seems like I was playing by the wrong rules, right? And that's what I'm trying to explain to you guys. You might be playing by the wrong rules too, and thinking, well, if I'm providing financially, she should be opening up. That's not it, okay? The actual rules are, you need to tend that flower with care and love and tenderness and gentleness. That's when she'll be feeling good to open up, okay? So again, be kind, be caring, be safe to her and to your kids, right? Speak to her in her love language. Now, you still need to prune as necessary, okay? So if she's doing something that's a problem, it's still on you to say that, right? Hey, like, I'd like our house to stay clean. Let's say she's leaving a mess everywhere. How can we work together on that? Or hey, could you please pick this up just so our house stays more clean, right? That's pruning. You're doing it in a kind way, right? Like, like, you could at least do this with everything that I do, right? That's going to make her shut down. That's the natural response, okay? Pruning, like when you cut something off of a plant, like it like bleeds a little bit in a way, like some stuff comes out. It is sad. Your wife might be sad when you prune, right? But that's okay, right? Do it in a kind way. It still needs to happen sometimes. You still need to call attention to problematic things, but you can do it in a kind way. But also the bigger ones are actually encouraging the growth that you want, okay? So let's say she says, hey, like, thanks for doing that the other day, right? And you're like, hey, I really appreciate that. Thanks for saying that, right? That encourages it. And then maybe a couple days later, you could say, hey, like, I really liked how you said that. Thank you the other day. I'd love it. I'd love to hear more of that. Like, that would help me feel really good. Okay. That's when she's already starting to bloom. And then you say, hey, like, that's a great bloom. Let's have some more of that, right? That encourages her to open up more, instead of like, oh, well, it's about time you did that, right? You say that natural response is for her to close that bloom up. Okay. So if you want it to open, encourage it. If you want it to close, be critical. Okay, that's the natural response, a natural system. Okay. The other thing too, encourage her hobbies, encourage her talents. Like, my wife's a really good artist, and she's working on this stuff for our kids' trunk or treat. She's made it super cool. Now, in the past, right, my approach would have been, there she goes again, right, doing something stupid, right? She should be cleaning, or she should be making dinner for me, right? But instead, this time, I've said, man, this is amazing, and taken some pictures of it, sent it to friends, and said, hey, look, like, I know this is something important to you. Let me, do some of the cleaning so that you can kind of focus on this and get it done. And that has been great, right? That's helping her bloom, and that's helping her be appreciative to me too, and seeing that I'm taking a different approach here, right? So that has opened her up to be more appreciative and open and friendly with me, right? That's natural. This is what I'm understanding. This is what I want you guys to understand. This is what's natural. This is, if you want attention, appreciation, affection, and sex from your wife, this is how to get there. Okay? Treat her like that flower that needs to kindness and encouragement to bloom, right? Do you need to prune sometimes? Yeah. Do you need to ask for what you want? Yes. And there's a way to do that that's kind and gentle that will help you get there. Okay? Anger, frustration, that's going to close that bloom down. Okay? So again, like your wife, when you act this way, she feels safe, she feels protected, she feels valued, right? And so the soil's primed for her to grow, to bloom, right? And so you prune the stuff you don't want with kindness. You encourage the growth you want with kindness, right? When you do that, the natural response is for her to open up. And then she gives you attention, appreciation, affection, sex, because she feels safe with you and loves you and sees that you love her and she feels taken care of and she's opening up and blooming across all areas of her life, right? You're encouraging time with her friends because that helps her bloom, right? You are treating her that way. That's the natural response at the end of this, right? Do you still need to direct it? Do you still need to tell her, hey, this is what I want? When she's already blooming and opening, when you say, hey, can you do this? She's going to say, yeah, I'm happy to do that, right? Look at it. I feel taken care of. So I'm going to do that for you. Sure, right? And when there's something you don't like, hey, could you not do that? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I can do that. Oh, thanks, right? That's how you get what you want, right? It's not like you're still in charge of asking for what you want and telling her things you don't want, but doing it in a kind way, okay? That's the natural system of things, okay? Again, guys, this is the thing, it has very little to do with financial support, okay? So stop feeling entitled to attention, appreciation, affection, sex because you're providing well. Okay, that's kind of the take home I want you to understand for today. It's still great that you're making lots of money. Awesome. Good job. But don't, it's a different system. Okay. Like, yeah, you're making a lot of money. Great. That's a measure of its own, but it does not, it's not the natural system of emotional care for your wife. It's totally separate. So don't try to put them together. Okay. Okay. So again, guys, financial support has little to do with your wife naturally giving you attention, appreciation, affection, and sex. They are 98% disconnected from each other. Okay. On the other hand, providing her emotional safety, support, tender love, care, right? Encouragement, right? That is what actually helps her open up and bloom like a flower, right? And then when you get mad at her, again, understand that's going to naturally have her close up. Okay. And again, there's a difference between pruning, right? Saying, hey, like, I didn't really like when you did that. Could you not do that again, please? Right? That's pruning. Coming to me like, oh, you're such an idiot, right? Like, I can't believe you did that. You look at everything I do for you. Why can't you do this for me? Okay, that's the anger that's going to make her shut down. Okay. So if you can provide care, support, love, right? She's going to open up naturally and give you attention, appreciation, affection, and sex that you want. That's how to get there. Okay. So encourage growth in the direction you want instead of stomping on her with anger, which is going to make her close down. Okay? So you want to work on this together? Let's do it. Join Strong Men, Strong Marriages. Visit strongmen.io. Join our group program at the end of the month. Or if you want to do more intensive work together, come join our intensive program, fill out an application, and we will see you there. All right. Stay strong in God, men. We'll see you next episode.